Hello, beautiful people of the world. I hope your day has been as awesome as you are. Welcome to the Wine and Gist with Monomoxie podcast. My name is Monomoxie, your host, and I am so glad to have you here. Wine and Gist podcast is a safe space for raw, deep, and unfiltered conversations about lifestyle, dating, and relationships today. We've got a lot to talk about, so grab a glass and let's gist. Well, hello, Wine and Gist listeners. Welcome to another episode. I hope you have your glass of wine ready because I've certainly got mine. So we're always talking about relationships. We've been talking about relationships from the beginning of the podcast, dating and whatnot. And today I want to talk a little bit about friendships, about the relationship of friendships. More specifically, toxic friendships that you need to leave behind because they're either holding you back or they're distracting you from your progress or whatever the situation is. There are just some friendships that you need to leave behind. Now, I realize that a lot of people will not be able to relate to this because some people have really good and healthy friendships. You know, friends that replicate, friends that understand what's important, friends that are supportive, etc., etc. So not everyone is necessarily going to relate or resonate with this topic. But I wanted to point out some things that some people do need to take note of and start to make a change on. See, I believe that making mistakes is a youthful rite of passage, so to speak. Every young person makes mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do some things that make you go, oh, crap, I never should have done that. Some things that probably will ruin your life or change the course of your life in moving forward. And like I said, mistakes is a youthful rite of passage. But there is a certain point in life and certain types of mistakes that are just not acceptable. And there are situations where self-preservation is not a bad thing. It's absolutely important for you to be able to progress and attain your aspirations and goals. Sometimes self-preservation is being able to tell a friend that, honestly, I can't hang out with you anymore. I can't really be a friend to you anymore. Because your decisions are bringing me down. The things that you're doing are drawing me back. I'm trying to move forward, and I feel like you keep springing me back into the cycle of bad habits and making just poor decisions. And I want to do better, and you're not ready to take that step with me, so I have to leave you behind. I believe that at some point, it is okay to have that conversation with certain friends, and obviously they're not going to take it, well. Most people are not going to take it well. Especially if they're the toxic friend, they're going to be offended. They're going to, try to gaslight you, tell you that you think you're better than everybody, better than them, whatever the situation is. You have to remain steadfast in your decisions to no longer associate with them because the crowd you keep does say a lot about you and it does reflect a lot of the opportunities that you will have in life. For example, if you're always hanging out with people who say they always cause public disruption. They're always getting in trouble. They're always just rowdy. And whenever people are describing those group of people because they see you with them, they're going to associate you with that behavior. Even though whenever these people are doing all those things, you decide to, stand back, you're not participating because you don't believe in it. Just the fact that you're associated with them, you are going to be pegged for a member of that crowd and someone who does the same thing that they do. So if, say, somebody had a job opportunity for you, a really great job opportunity, and someone else recommended you, thought you were a great fit, and they look through and they're like, man, but you're always hanging out with a crowd that's causing trouble. They're always rowdy, getting arrested. I don't know if I want that in my company. That's an example of how the crowd you keep can reflect against the opportunities that you get. And to use a dating example for one brief second, going back to dating real quick, it's the same thing with, male or female. If you're hanging out with a bunch of hoes, people that are always known for sleeping around, known for always cheating on their significant others, and those are your friends, that's your crowd. Every time that you have someone interested in you, they're going to wonder if you are like the rest of your crowd. So that's another way that the crowd you keep can affect you. But anyway, I'm going to get back to the friendship thing, and I'm going to list 6 specific types of friendships that I believe you should drop, like bad habits. Drop them 4 years ago and just don't look back. And I know it's very tough, especially when you've had that friend for a very long time and you've been through some very hard times and they are a part of some of your very core memories. That's very hard to have to leave them behind. And you kind of have a little bit of that obligation that you still have to be loyal to them by being their friend. But if you have constantly tried to get them to elevate with you and they just don't seem to want to or to be making enough of an effort to do it, or just aren't interested, or maybe they try to ridicule you for trying to be better, whatever the situation is, if you realize that this person is just not going to change, is not going to move up and elevate with you, you're going to have to leave them behind. So here are 6 types of friendships that you need to drop, like bad habits. First one's pretty obvious, and those are the selfish and controlling type friendships. These friendships where their way is always the highway and they never take into consideration what you would like to do or what your opinion is on things, or much less care to even ask. They make the plans, automatically just fit you into them because, you're the tag along friend, the friend who shows up so they're not doing something alone. And, friendships are about mutual respect and consideration of each other's interest. You got to stand up for yourself and say no every once in a while, or just drop them all together. If they never seem to take into consideration your part of things, never seem to care about your part of things, that's a selfish friendship. Essentially, you are the tag along friend, the one that's there just so kind of more like an entourage, if you may. So yeah, no, talk to your friend about something like this. If you feel that this is what's going on in your friendship, first, I always encourage, communication. Talk to your friend because maybe they don't realize that they're doing this or being this kind of friend, but definitely discuss it with them. And their reaction to that discussion is what will really determine if this person should be your friend in moving forward. Like if they receive it, understand, like in an understanding way, and make an effort to do better and consider you, that's a good friend. It means that they listened and they care. But if they just kind of deflect or make you feel small for it, or just ignore it, or just don't really try to be better at being a friend in that sense, then there's just no point. Just drop them. Honestly, that's my opinion. Another pretty obvious one is the jealous friendships, where they kind of smile in your face, but they secretly despise you. The friend that pretends to celebrate your victories, but then talk shit and minimize them behind your back. And I'm saying, just repeat after me. That is not a friend. That is a hater in disguise. Friends that just always kind of have something to say, but in a maybe sweet and, oh, I'm coming from a good place, I'm coming from a caring place kind of way, but they always have something to say about something good that happens to you, right? Maybe you get into a relationship that you're finally, here we go, with the dating a relationship again. But anyway, maybe you get into a relationship that you finally feel like this is a good thing for you. Here to go with their negative talk. Instead of just being happy for you and encouraging you to take healthy steps, in that relationship, they just bad talk it, just trigger your insecurities and just kind of put thoughts in your head. That is a jealous friend. That's not even a friend. To be honest with you, that person is not a friend whatsoever. And I don't even understand why they're wasting their time spending it with you just to put you down. That's fucking weird, but they're not your friend. And if you are feeling this way about somebody and you definitely notice these things, don't even bother. Why even bother creating any kind of friendship or relationship with them? Just drop it like it's a bad habit, boo. Now, real quick, do not mistake this for an actual friend who genuinely cares about you and is just worried about the moves you're making and the decisions you're making, because sometimes maybe you are someone that rushes into things and just goes in blindly, and they know that, so they're kind of warning you to slow down and looking out for you. That's completely different. That's somebody that genuinely cares about you and wants you to just kind of be aware of every step you're taking. That's not necessarily a jealous friend. So there's a huge difference between those two. Just wanted to point that out so you know. So another type of friendship to drop is the copycat friendship. Now, I want to believe that this is rare. I really, really want to believe that, but it does exist. And I wasn't close to these people, but I have seen something similar to a copycat friendship, and it drove this girl insane. But for some reason, she kept dealing with it. But anyway, individuality is beauty, right? Just be yourself because everyone else is already taken, right? Be yourself. But that's a memo that copycat friends are not catching, right? I'm talking the friend who copies everything from your hairstyle to your lingo, your personality, the types of people you date, the type of places you go, things you do, the type of career path you're following. That's like, oh my gosh, like they're essentially trying to duplicate you in themselves. And that's frankly a little psychotic, honestly, in my opinion. You know, some people might find this like flattering and think it's a compliment or like they're influencing someone, but there's a difference between influencing or even letting someone onto a new trend and someone literally copying everything down to buying the same sweater you have, buying the same pair of jeans you have, buying the same shoes you have, doing the same hairstyle you have, down to the exact color. I mean, that's just weird. I couldn't think of a bigger nightmare than a friend who, I mean, I can probably think of bigger nightmares, but it's one of those nightmares, you know, having a friend that's like, wants to be like you so much, they're literally becoming you. It's like, okay, that is definitely creepy and psychotic, and it's just drop it before it gets worse. And then you have the call you only when they need you friendships. I mean, this one is pretty self-explanatory. You know, friends who take, but never give, you know, not even in like consideration or care or just like checking on you in a sense of like, are you doing okay? Is this okay with you? You know what I'm saying? Like the friend who calls you only when they're bored and out of options for things that they would rather be doing, you know, than spending time with you. Like the friends who calls when they need to borrow money or they need to borrow your car or they need to even borrow a freaking outfit. Like, gosh, I mean, really? But anyways, it's like those one-sided friendships, like they're never healthy and you're more so a convenience than a friend, right? Where, like I said, you're always giving and giving and giving and they're always taking and taking and taking and only ever think about you when there's nobody else available. Only ever, you know, you're the last to get the invitation. And even though you're the first to be there and be supportive and be great as a friend, but they never ever replicate that. You know, when it comes to your event, they're either making an excuse or they're the last to show up and first to leave. And it's just one-sided friendships. Drop them. You know, like I said, this is another one that requires some communication. You can talk to this person about it and say, you know what, I feel like you're not really here for me as a friend. I feel like this is one-sided. And see how they react to that. How they react is what determines if you drop them or not. If they react in an understanding manner and make an effort to change, then great. But if they deflect or put you down or just kind of act like they don't care about how you feel about a situation, then you know what? Drop. Next is the codependent friendships. Well, I guess it's not really codependent if you're not similar to that person. I guess it's just dependent friendships. Basically, the friend that I guess makes it like their life goal to spend every waking moment with you. They're always trying to hang out 24/7. I'm talking Tuesday at 2 p.m. They're asking you, what are you doing? Working or doing something productive. It's the middle of the day. Life is moving. Life is going on. And, you know, it's like if you're someone that is okay with that, someone that likes that, someone that who is like that, you appreciate that and that's great. You might not find a problem with this kind of friendship. But for someone like me, like, I have so much to do. I don't have time to sit here and FaceTime you for 4 hours to talk about nothing. And that's a little too dependent for me. Personally, you know, it's like when someone is so idle, they have so much time on their hands, it's just like, why do you have all that time as an adult? Like, there's so much you could be doing, so much you could be doing with all of that time. And, you know, codependent friendships, or I keep saying co, but dependent friendships can become kind of toxic because, you know, when you have any kind of life outside of that friend, I mean, this is a friend that they want to come with you even to your family events. They want to tag along because they just want to spend time with you and hang out. And it's like a genuine friendship thing for them, but it's like they're always available and they want to spend time with you and they want to hang out. And it can become toxic when you do anything outside of that person. Maybe you have another friend and you went and spend time with them without inviting this person. It's just kind of like, oh, what the hell? Don't you like me or something? And that's when it becomes a psychological, deeper psychological issue that I feel that the person needs to look into, because your friends should be able to have a life outside of you. It's okay for your friends to have other friends. And even if on certain occasions all the friends come together, there's certain things that you do with one other friend that you may not do with the other. And it doesn't mean that you're leaving the other friend out. It's just life. It's not that deep. You know what I mean? But a dependent friend would see it a completely different way. Like you're abandoning the friendship or betraying the friendship by having this thing without them, by spending time without them. And it's like when you find yourself lying just to kind of avoid that, it's like, okay, it's gotten a little too far, too far, not a little, a lot, especially when it's getting toxic, where they're starting to attack you, saying, why didn't you invite me to this? Why didn't you ask me to come to this? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? It's like, okay, I'm allowed to have a life outside of this friendship. And if they have a problem with that because they want to be involved with everything in your life, they're extremely dependent as a friend. They can't even make a decision without consulting you. And every time that, you have to make a decision, they want an input in it. That is just, that's too much. Too much. And personally, it's something that I couldn't deal with. I would have a conversation with them and communicate with them and ask them to, maybe seek some help for that fear of abandonment. And I think that's what creates the dependency. But I don't know. I'm not a professional psychologist. I just read a lot. But I would definitely talk to them, but I would also just kind of back out of that friendship because I'm just in the point in my life where I cannot accommodate that personally. But if you're someone that, hey, you like that, you want a friend that's with you through everything, even your family events, your personal events, everything, then you might not find a problem with that. But for someone like me, I do like my space where I do like to meet with my friends. We get together, we hang out, we have a great time. But there are other aspects of my life that I do need to attend to that doesn't involve social aspects of my life and friendships. And I do appreciate friends that understand that. Another part of the dependency is not necessarily that they depend on you, but they depend on someone else. And by depend, I don't mean like economically or anything like that, but that emotional and mental dependency on someone else, for example, a significant other. Drawing it back to the dating and relationships again. I once had a friend some time ago who was dating just a very toxic relationship. I mean, toxic. I'm talking whenever there was a fight, things would get destroyed, things would get wrecked around the house. She would have to leave or he would have to leave. And then a few days later, they're back together, professing their love for each other on like social media, like, oh, we've been through thick and thin, or thick and thin, but thick and thin, but we are still strong and we're still in love and blah, 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 blah. And I was in a situation once where she called me in the middle of the night, cold ass fucking winter night. It was like 3:40 something a.m. Blowing my phone up. I didn't pick up the first, couple times because like it was vibrate and I didn't really I was in a good sleep. I was sleeping with my babies. And I eventually picked up around the fourth ring. And I was like, what's going on? And she's just like, I am locked out. It's freezing. I have no one else to call. I have nowhere else to go. Can you come pick me up? I drove 40 fucking minutes, hauled my poor babies in the fucking car late at night or early in the morning, drove 40 minutes and picked her up because, my friend was in trouble. So anyway, she's spoke all this smack about, oh, she's done this time. This is bullshit, yada, yada, yada. But then, 3 days later, she returned to him and the relationship and the home that was his, but she was living at. And, the cycle just continued. So at one point, she calls me. It was like around midnight and she's crying and shit happened again. And, I was like, you know what? I'm really tired of the cycle. Stop calling me, call 911 or something. I don't fucking know. But I'm tired of this cycle because you do this every time. It happens every time you call, you cry, you need help, and then you go back to him. You don't figure your life out and you go back to him. And you know what? I'm tired of enabling it. I am a struggling single mother of 2 beautiful kids, and I am just trying to live my life, and I was trying to be a good friend, but you are dragging me into your mess every few days, and I am not with it anymore. Oh, she was pissed. She went off, said, I'm not being a good friend. I'm not being understanding, that sometimes there's things in relationship. And then went on into, emotional abuse and how it makes people stay in relationship. And my first thought was, which I did relate to her, was, oh, so you are aware of something like that. You are aware of how emotional abuse can affect you and how it can make you return to the partner that's abusing you. You're aware of these things. And she's like, yes. And I'm trying. I was like, well, how are you trying? You're not. You return back and you guys party it up, and then issues happen again when he gets high and drunk, and the cycle repeats. I am just not interested in being part of that cycle. I have my own shit to worry about. Well, long story short, to this day, I believe I am still blocked. I'm not sure. I haven't, had any contact with her for very many years, but that's how that ended. And that is because I finally stood my ground and said, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. And being dependent on someone else, especially emotionally and in a toxic relationship, it is very understanding that, it's kind of like a mild form of Stockholm. You keep returning to the person that hurts you. And for whatever reason, you've created an idea in your head that they are your home, or whatever the situation is, it's hard, especially when abuse is involved. And I completely understand that. But I cannot be brought down. And this is where I believe self-preservation is not a bad thing. I have my family to take care of. I have kids to take care of. I have, my own life to worry about, my own economic status to worry about. I can't be brought down every few days by petty, toxic relationship drama. And as much as I miss my dear friend, I feel like, you know what? Her blocking me was a good thing for me too, because then I wouldn't feel bad and fall back into the cycle of enabling her by always being there whenever the shit happened. So that is one friendship that I was happy and okay with dropping like a bad habit. I mean, my thing is, at a certain age, you have got to get it together about dealing with the on and off bullshit in a relationship. Like, who the hell has time for that? Especially if you're someone that's ready to settle down and have a family or whatever the situation is. Who has time for the bullshit drama in relationships? Like, no. If it's a toxic relationship, like I said, I totally get it, especially when economic, issues are tied into it. Like, you have a lease together and neither of you make enough to really break apart from each other. Like, these things definitely do happen to a lot of people, and they're forced to live together. That's why you see a lot of people are like, oh, we're not together anymore, but we still stay together. I get it, right? But your mind has to be set on moving on from that relationship, because it's just, who has time for the toxicness, the constant issues, the constant drama and heartache and fights, and nobody, who the fuck has time for that? So personally, I feel like I am the type of friend that I would never drag my friend into shit like that. Like, I would never compel my friends to deal with crap like that. So I expect, full-blown fucking expect my friends to not drag me into shit like that. Relationship issues happen. They happen all the time. Sometimes, marriages end, relationships end. You have to pack up your shit and move. You have to deal with things. I get it. But there's a difference between that and someone who it's just addicted to the relationship bullshit, the relationship toxicness. At a certain age, it's just you gotta get your shit together and realize that, look, this is not it. This is not what I want, so I need to make a change. And I hold each adult accountable for that. And like I said, there are situations of abuse that makes it hard, but especially if you become aware of the fact that that abuse is making it hard, I think, the first step is to cry for help, seek help anywhere possible that's offering the help that you need. Because there's just no point dealing with stuff like that all the time. I mean, peace of mind is so precious. And when you have a friend who is in a toxic drama thing that's always dragging you into it, that fucks up your peace of mind. And once again, self-preservation is not always a bad thing, because in that case, you need to preserve yourself. Just hands down truth. Last but certainly not the least type of friend to drop like a bad habit is the shade throw-in, I'm just kidding type of friend. Right? The friends who are always quick to spill your business in like a shady way and or like put you down every step you take, but like mask it as like, oh, I'm just kidding. Or like, haha, girl, it's just a joke. Or man, it's just a joke. Isn't that serious? The friends that say things like, how's that little business of yours going? Or how's that little relationship of yours coming? Or, just kind of like ask you about things, but throw a little shade in it. Yeah, no. No one deserves to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? Where you're always being put down. It's like a backhanded, compliment in a sort of way. You're always being put down, but also like in a way that seems like you're being lifted. Like, what I'm saying? Like that's just a shade throwing, hater ass friend. That's not a friend. That's just someone that's you're acquainted to, or or you've spent some time with, but it's like they're not a real friend, because a real friend won't say, how's your little business going? They're going to say, oh, how's your business venture going? And they're going to genuinely wait for an answer and have a real conversation with you. Not just be like, oh, you're actually making money. Just kidding. Yeah. Shade throwing. And you know what? Ain't nobody got time for that. So just go ahead and like drop it a drop. I'm going to elaborate once again on the crowd you keep. So important. When you're like in high school and early college years and, maybe like very early 20s, it's kind of like, okay, you're just kind of rolling with a crowd and it's more about quantity than quality. And, it's all about the people and the vibe and whatnot. But when you get to a certain age, like, I'm not saying this like I'm such an old person. Like, I'm really not. But I do believe that there is a certain age, and that age is somewhere in your mid-ish 20s, that you begin to just start to analyze certain things in your life. And that includes the people you're surrounding yourself with. Are these people good for your growth? Are these people good for your ambitions? Are these people good for what you want in life? Are they encouraging of, your growth, or are they going to put you down or try to discourage you? Because, misery loves company. And when the company tries to leave, misery doesn't like it. So at some point in your life, you do need to analyze what direction you're headed, and if the people you are around are good for that direction, or if they're going to hold you back or just cause distractions. Because part of having supportive friends are friends who are going to be like, you know what, we're going to this awesome party tonight, but this person has to study for an exam. So honestly, he might feel left out and he might feel like, bad, but we're not going to tell him at all, because we actually want him to stay home and study for his exam. That's actually part of being a supportive friend. Even though they see the party on Snapchat the next day and they're like, wow, you guys didn't invite me. Say, hey, man, or hey, girl, you were studying for an exam. And we wanted to make sure that that was your priority, and we didn't want to distract you or tempt you. That's part of being a supportive friend, as opposed to a friend that's like, come on, just like a couple hours, have a couple of drinks. You can go back and still have time to study. And then they keep pumping your shots. So, that way you don't, because they want your company. They want you to come hang out with them. And this exam is a big deal. And if you fail, you're going to be around longer. And it's like, maybe in that moment, that's not what they're consciously thinking, but subconsciously, that is the goal. So you do have to analyze your direction and analyze the people you are around, because the crowd you keep begin to matter a lot as you get older. It matters to your direction in life. It matters to the opportunities you're going to get. It matters to how society views you. It all matters. So if certain people are just not living up to where you want to be in life, living up to the direction that you want to elevate towards, sometimes you just have to leave them behind. It's not because you don't care about them anymore or you think of yourself better than them in any way, but it's simply just they're not the right vibe or right person to be around to help you achieve your goals or to motivate you or to support you or at least to not distract you. So sometimes, yeah, it's okay to leave friends behind so you can elevate. All right, Wine and Just listeners, that marks the end of episode 6, Friendships to Drop Like a Bad Habit. As usual, go ahead and send me some feedback, drop a comment, please like, share, follow, subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook and Instagram at Wine and Just Pod. Until next time, go on and be great.